Hello friends, it has been 3 months that we have moved into the shop and well, I figured I'd give you a decent update of what we have going on because I don't have any currently finished projects that I can already post about. So we're gonna do an overlook because some of you guys have been asking about certain projects and I'm just gonna go over everything I have, everything we've been over before, and some things that we haven't. We have quite a bit of bikes, as you can see. I don't do videos on bikes because most of you don't really, they don't do well. I've done some motorcycle videos and none of them do well, and Volvo does most of the motorcycle work anyway, so I can't really record most of it. But we do have bikes, and that is the majority of the inventory that's currently for sale. So everything that's here on the front line is what we actually currently have for sale. You guys already know the 3 Series BMW, which did just fine at the track and is currently sitting for sale. I don't know, there's potentially buyers that are being turned away by the fact that I took it to the track because I do disclose that to them. She's been doing good. She's been sitting here for $3,500. So if any of you guys are interested in buying it for that much, please let me know, and subscribers get a discount. This is Volvo's A3 that has been for sale for quite some time, asking for $11,000 on this thing, and it's a solid little car. It is more pleasant to drive than I would expect it to, in the sense that it feels really light on its feet. Like, as you can see by all the bird poop and the lack of cleaning, it is being used and abused on a consistent basis. I don't feel like spending money onto this because this needs to go to a body shop. They can repair our quarter panel damage, which is significant, and it will cost me over $1,000 to fix, as well as the paint, because as you guys might remember, the A4 gray does not match the S4 gray. Not really much updates with this thing. She's been driving great, sounds awesome. I am a big fan of this car, and I don't plan on getting rid of it probably ever. I do hope that one of these days I'll be able to get this thing to 100% so that it looks as well as it drives. Next we have the SQ5. I didn't really do a video on this. You guys might remember from the new shop video, I did a lot of suspension work on this, and that was about all that this car needed, which is kind of why I wasn't able to get a decent video out of this. I was recording work on this car while I was moving shops, which was just a really busy time, and I could not prioritize making videos about this. But it is all set and ready now. Currently not for sale because Volvo has been enjoying driving this thing around. It could be as soon as we get this little guy painted up, and at that point the car will be complete. I mean, mechanically it is perfect. It drives amazing, looks amazing too. This interior is one of my favorite Audi interiors that I've seen to date. While we're on the topic of the SQ5s, we do have another one that hasn't moved at all because it needs an insane amount of work. They were both purchased in around the same time frame, and this car just has a lot of body work. It has a lot of suspension damage. Long story short, there's just so much damage that it's gonna need a lot of money invested into this thing. We'll get to it eventually. Now let's finish up our Q5s, because I do have another Q5, which is not an S model, but it does have the 3.0 supercharged motor, and this is going to be in one of these sooner than later videos because it has very light damages that we're going to get fixed really soon, and she's going to be ready for sale. And because it's not an S model, it's going to be quicker to sell because it's going to be cheaper, even though it has the performance that most SQ5s have, in the sense that it does have the same motor. It did hit some sort of an animal, likely a deer, but luckily it was a very light hit. I mean, the fender is damaged. The bumper is missing some grills, and this grill will need to be replaced. All of these are on order already, so just waiting for that to get in, and we should be able to put this thing back together. Most issues here can be fixed rather quickly. Even the fender should be repairable, even though it is properly kinked here. I might even be able to fix this on camera. There we go. That looks better already. You guys already know the Tiguan from the 4 Cars in One Day series. Yes, I have not touched this car to this day because it needs an engine, but one of these days, she's gonna get back on the road. And while we're on the topic of this car, let's talk about our today's sponsors, Lasfit. Lasfit makes these very well designed and laser cut floor mats and liners that fit perfectly in your vehicle and protect your carpeting from spills, dirt. Not to mention, these raised borders are going to protect this from any kind of melting snow and all of those issues, because as you know, stock flat carpets, they don't really protect you from melted snow. It gets salt all over the place, it damages your stock carpet, and is really hard to clean off afterwards. The texture on these is absolutely great. It is not as plasticky as the WeatherTech floor mats are. The rubberized coating on this makes this feel a lot more pleasant and keeps your feet from sliding around when you're driving. I really like that they made this extra texture for your heel to go onto, which keeps your foot from sliding around when you're braking or accelerating. Not to mention the fact that on the underside of the floor mat, we have these little studs which keep it from sliding around, which is important for our rear mats because they don't have anywhere to clip into. So as you can see, this sits right in place. It doesn't have any major gaps. It looks very, very well made, and it doesn't slide around. And for those of us who haul dirty things in our trunk, Lasfit also provides a trunk liner, which once again just fits absolutely perfectly. As soon as the creases from the packaging go away, this thing is gonna sit nice and flat and protect our nice, pretty clean carpet. Use the link below to find out what Lasfit has to offer for your personal vehicle. They have an excellent variety of light bulbs and floor mats for many makes and models for pretty good pricing. Now, the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have the Silverados. Some of you guys have been asking about this, what happened to this truck, and it is a work in progress. It was sitting at my body guy's Zach's shop for a while because he's been meaning to do the cab work. Some of you guys might remember we did end up going 50-50 on this car, and then he ended up changing his mind because he doesn't have the motivation to work on this car because he knows he's not going to get paid for it until it sells. So he kind of asked me to buy him out, which I did within the last couple of months. Brought it here. So basically, whenever I'm done changing the camshaft, because I'm pretty sure that's what our issue is, we likely have a collapsed lifter of the AFM system, potentially a damaged camshaft, because that is a common issue on these things, as well as a hood latch that I can't remember how to operate. Anyway, we don't need to worry about that. Yes, I already bought the camshaft for this, so it is a matter of just pulling that camshaft, taking off the heads, valve covers, you know, all of that. This is a single camshaft engine, as most of you might know. Unlike an Audi's, they are actually pretty hard to replace. So that is something I'm gonna have to do. I keep buying new projects that are easier flips so that I can pay my bills, and I don't manage to get to longer projects which just end up piling up here. Now we have another Silverado that runs and drives extremely well, has a very healthy 5.3, but this was a very poor purchase. I actually bought this on the same day as the BMW, and I regretted it as soon as I took a look under it. So IAA advertised this as a rear end damage, which I guess is understandable. However, if you look closely at the hitch and everything and the bumper, there's no scratches. There is zero evidence of the fact that this thing has been hit in the back, and my best guess is that somebody tried towing something and well, things didn't work out the way they expected because the frame is just absolutely rusted in the back, which is a very common issue on these in the Midwest, anywhere with salty roads and winters and stuff like that. The frame just went kaboom. I do have it listed for $2,000 just so that I get my money back. That's how much I have into this. But obviously nobody wants to buy something with a useless rusty frame in the back. The front of the frame is perfectly okay. It could perfectly well drive another 100,000 miles, assuming that you don't tow anything and don't put too much of a heavy loads in our bed here. Now this should have been a video, a dedicated video that would have done well, but I got started working on this without recording because I thought this was going to be a very easy project. We bought this with very, very minor bumper damages right at the bottom over here. Spent decent money on it on the auction, thinking that this was just going to be a very quick bumper repair. And well, this car actually reminds me of the Golf R that Alex from Legit Street Cars had bought, because he had a very similar issue. Now we don't know whether it was the forklift or the accident that caused these damages, but there was a cracked oil pan. Boo-hoo, you know, easy enough replacement. It's a plastic oil pan, very common whenever that hits anything. But after we got this car on the lift and decided to replace the oil pan, we noticed a giant hole in the transmission. So I've already replaced that said transmission because there was no way of fixing that. And since then, this car has been driving around perfectly well. And this thing is about to go on sale for about $9,500 because this is a 2016, which is in good shape. It is a clean title. It doesn't have many damages, and it has a freshly replaced transmission and a brand new oil pan. We've already done decent miles on this after the transmission replacement, so it seems to be perfectly healthy and good to go to the new buyer. So if you're interested in any of the cars that I said are ready for sale and are currently for sale, especially the Silverado, please get that thing out of here. I'm tired of looking at it. We have a pretty cool, fun little Audi that I'm pretty excited to rip around in, because it seems like a fun little car. It looks cute. It drives light, similar to the A3, even though it is a front-wheel drive. What I didn't know when I was buying this is the fact that parts for these are just incredibly hard to find. There's no aftermarket fenders, there's no aftermarket hoods. I don't even think there's an aftermarket bumper that exists. I mean, bumpers might be there, but hood and fender are non-existent, and buying them OEM in used condition on eBay, I mean, just the fender costs about $500, and that will need to be resprayed, and that's another $200–300. Not to mention the aluminum hood, even more expensive, even harder to ship, and yeah, it was just gonna turn into a very expensive project if I was buying all the parts one by one, which is why I decided to buy a parts car, and that is coming from Arizona, and it was actually picked up just today, so it should get here within the next couple of days, and we'll be able to start rebuilding this. The parts car has mechanical issues, even though it is a run and drive, based on what Copart says. Once I lay my eyes on it, there's a slight chance that I will decide that the parts car is too nice to be used for parts, and at that point I'll want to fix the parts car and then have to figure out what to do with this again. I know some of you guys don't like the fact that I do Kias and Hyundais on my channel, but they're just easy to buy, they're very cheap cars, they're easy to fix, the parts are cheap, and they're decent money makers. So here we have a Hyundai Sonata that I bought with mechanical damage from IAA, and you know, I didn't really know what I was getting into. It was relatively cheap, so I didn't worry about it, because I knew that this thing had a 2.4 liter inline 4 that I have in my Kia Sorento parts car that rebuilt, well, the Kia Sorento that we already sold. And I was hoping that that 2.4 can go into this if this engine is toast. So when we got this, something we found interesting is the fact that, well, the spark plugs, they're over here. They're just hanging out over here. This cover was completely loose. The ignition coils were unbolted and just hanging in here. And when I went to start it, absolutely nothing happened. It didn't even try to crank. So yeah, most likely a seized motor, which is not surprising for a Hyundai. But the Sorento parts car, based on the previous owner, has a 50,000 mile motor that was replaced by Kia with the updated revision of the rod bearings, meaning that it should be a lot more reliable than the other versions of this motor are. So this is going to be another engine replacement job, which is okay, because I don't imagine these engines to be very hard to pull, which I'm already in the process of with the Sorento. I'm almost done pulling it. It's fully unbolted. At this point, I kind of just have to kind of yank it out with an engine hoist. And that hasn't been a very hard project so far. I've only spent like 3 to 4 hours, and at this point, I think the motor is pretty much fully unbolted from the bell housing, and all the accessories are disconnected and stuff like that. The Range Rover, it's exciting. It's awesome. We're currently in the process of rebuilding our giant Brembo caliper that potentially is sticking, although I'm not really seeing any major issues with this thing. I mean, the pistons looked relatively clean. The walls inside the cylinder look pretty clean. So as some of you have commented, potentially we have an issue with the brake line. Probably going to disconnect the brake line, see how well it flows, and kind of go from there. I mean, hopefully this is going to be enough. Next, we do have the black S4, which is so close to being done. It is currently at a body shop getting the rocker and that floor section replaced, which were really mangled by its hit. And the parts car we bought for that actually donated the rocker panel as well, which was very fun to cut out. And then last but not least, I did buy my first boat from Copart, which, yeah, we're gonna get into that in another video. With that said, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.